So welcome, I'm Mitchell from Modes. Today I'm joined by Rob at Xerox. Rob helps Mode with customer experience with regards to digital transformation. Before we get into things, if you do have any comments, please do feel free to put them in the comments box and we'll surely get back to you. Today's discussion, really I wanted to focus on three main areas. Firstly, the workplace. People are moving around different locations. How can we make sure that they're efficient in what they do? Secondly, productivity. People are sharing information, working from home. It's important that we're actually able to help them to be able to do their job effectively. And lastly, I actually want to look at security as well. People are sharing information. It's important that we do actually make sure that any device they're using, whether it be a mobile phone, laptop, home computer, home printer, everything is kept secure, content as well. So, Rob, what are you hearing from Xerox with regards to the environment changing and all about, obviously, workplace efficiency?
So from a workplace point of view, let me bounce that back to you. Okay, so from your role as a salesperson, you're going out there meeting customers. Well, what are your customers telling you in terms of some of the challenges that they're trying to deal with as a result of what's happened over the last couple of years?
I really would say it's probably a mixed bag. Customers tell me that they are working from home, they are working in the office, or maybe a mix of both, a bit more of a hybrid solution for them. It's important that actually staff can share this information, be productive and efficient in what they do. Some people are actually downsizing their offices as well.
But that's one of the key ones, right? Downsizing. Let's look at as to why would people want to downsize. Quite simply because of cost. So in the UK, the average cost of a desk to a business, when you take in how much they spend on rental, furniture, IT, facilities, the total cost is about £5,000 a year.
Really,
right? Add up all your desks, offices, meeting rooms, about £5,000 a year. The average utilisation, though, is only about 40%.
That's low.
Right. So one thing COVID has shown us is that actually how inefficient the workplace environment is. So how little we use in that space, yet we're having to pay for it. So what we're finding is businesses are looking and say, well, look, I've got 100% of desks, but actually my capacity now, the maximum number of people I've ever got in the office because of how we're working is going to be 60, 70%. Why am I paying for 100% when actually I can get rid of, even if go down to 75, 80%, always more than enough for the maximum capacity, but I've saved myself a considerable amount of money by getting rid of and disposing of that space. And one of the key things that's also leading to, in addition to the rental, is, well, less space is less requirement on technology.
Absolutely. I'm thinking back, even in Mode's office, we used to be on 2 floors, but what we've done now is to be more productive, is moved everybody to 1 floor so we can collaborate, brainstorm, come together and think of ideas just to be more efficient and productive in what we do.
Well, there we go. So even yourselves, you've eliminated the cost of an additional floor and find it's easier to interact with other departments because everybody is face to face. So that's the business side of things. If we now look at the employee side of things and have a look at how much money did the average employee save by not going to work in 2020? That's £2,000.
£2,000, that's a lot of money.
Right.
It's probably the price of a holiday.
Well, there we go, right?
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is after tax. Right. So if we think about before tax, that's what, £2,500, £3,000 that people are earning. So this is a significant amount of money. So if I've been able to prove that actually I can do my job wherever I am, I'm just as productive, maybe more productive, I can concentrate better at home, although there's some things, like collaboration and working in teams, perhaps we might want to do face-to-face. But if I can save money by not going to work, and then you look at the business side of, well, if I can get rid of an entire floor like Mode did, that's the big driver that we're seeing right now in terms of the efficiency of the workplace. What we're being asked for is it's no longer about us provisioning technology because we go to work. Work now comes to us. So wherever I am is wherever I'm doing my job. So we've had to look at our technology and our services to adapt to meet that major change in the working environment.
So Rob, we've talked about efficiency. I want to talk a little bit more about productivity.
Okay.
So we know that offices are shrinking and staff are having to work from different environments. So how do we make sure that staff are productive no matter where they are? So, for example, if I'm not in the office, how can I make sure that I'm able to do my job effectively?
All right, so first of all, let's have a look at why do we have employees. So the role of the employee is to perform specific duties or tasks within a given function. Their ability to produce or deliver those duties and tasks will effectively tell us how productive any business is, right? So if an employee cannot do their job, then that part of the organisation is going to fail.
Well, how can we make sure that just doesn't happen?
So in basic terms, what we need to make sure of is now that people aren't necessarily all working from the office, the processes that once worked perfectly when we were all there are not now the inhibitors now that we're trying to work remotely. So what do I mean by that? Well, you might have heard the phrase digital transformation. And what digital transformation is, taking something that, whether it's a paper-based process or whether it was manually intensive, can we digitize it? Can we automate it? So I'll give you a simple example. Pre-COVID, with our role, probably similar with your role, lots of traveling around, got to hand in expenses, you have an expense form, you write them out, you put your receipts on there, you physically hand it in. Well, how do we do that when the office is shut and we can't physically go there? So, pre-COVID, a lot of organisations weren't that keen to want to change their processes. It works, it's fine, we're able to do what we need to do, it's going to cost too much money, it's going to take too long, whatever. There were lots of reasons why businesses didn't want to make these changes until they had to. I can't submit my expenses when I'm sat working from home. What we found was that in the first 3 months of COVID, so April, May and June of 2020, there was more digital transformations in those 3 months than in the preceding 10 years.
Really? Wow.
Because they had to. They had no choice. They had to change the way that they were working. So what we also found was actually those customers that felt that this was going to be a challenge and they didn't want to do it would realise, well, actually, I managed to do this, in some cases, 20 times faster than they thought was possible. But more importantly, they found that their employees were 5 to 10% more productive than they were before.
Wow, okay.
Okay? So, it doesn't sound a lot, right? 10%. But imagine 10% more sales orders processed, 10% more items delivered, 10% products manufactured, 10% invoices more processed. There's not a single business out there that won't benefit from it. So, coming back to your question on how do we ensure productivity, it really comes down to looking at it's how we engage with the customer and the questions that we're asking.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. So what I tend to do is it's not just about understanding how many machines a customer requires, but it's also about understanding the process behind that, the tasks they need to follow. I mean, I'm thinking of a recent example where a customer very manually was redacting documents, and they spent hours and hours of the week doing it.
Yep.
Very simply, added in a automated workflow that not only automated the redaction, but also complied with the compliance they needed to do, but also allowed them to have that time back to invest into other times, ultimately, generating income.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point. And also with that is it's not just about freeing up that time, but now I can do this from anywhere.
Absolutely.
So this is what we mean when we're talking about employee productivity, being able to work from any location.
Okay, Rob, so we've discussed efficiency.
Yep.
We've discussed productivity. Now let's talk a little bit more about security.
Right, so security. Talk to any IT manager, what's the number one topic on their mind?
Well, Joe, I'd actually say it's not just an IT manager. You've got the business owner, you've got the employees. It's everybody's shared responsibility to make sure that what they do is secure. Even the government are actually advising that local businesses or small, medium businesses actually take a good hard look at what they're doing and make sure that their processes are secure as well.
Yeah, so it's absolutely imperative, right, that our data, our documents and our content are protected at all times. We've discussed already that we've now got our workers are working remotely, employees are working remotely. Our data is no longer solely housed on on-prem IT. We've got so many device types now that are, what we call internet-ready devices that we, Xerox, have actually adopted this new methodology that we refer to as zero trust security.
What do you actually mean by zero trust security? Bearing in mind that my customers are really wanting the confidence to know that what they do is secure.
Okay, well, let's consider the two aspects we're looking at here. So we're looking at the devices, and then we're looking at the documents themselves, what we want to print, right? So the devices themselves, they're internet ready. Now, what we mean by internet ready is that you can go directly to any one of our machines and you can go to an internet-based platform, Google Drive, OneDrive, and we're going to scan files to them. Because they're internet ready, that potentially could be an entry point for a hacker, right? Or from a document point of view, how many times do you hear about someone's left a USB stick on a train and it's got secure information, or we might have a rogue employee that's acting inappropriately, or using classified information that we don't want them to have access to.
Yeah, I mean, you do absolutely hear that all the time. It's always in the news and stories as you hear, collaborating and talking with other employees as well.
Right, exactly. So these are all the things that we're talking about of where a company can be impacted. So our approach, zero trust security, is that we, Xerox, actually the approach to it is that we give you, Mode, all the tools that you need, that you now provide that end-to-end comprehensive security related service, if you like. Okay? So if we look at what that entails, so first of all, there's the technology itself. So Xerox devices, they come with McAfee and Cisco software built into them. So even if a user completely inadvertently goes up to the machine, wants to print from USB, has no idea there's a virus on there, it doesn't matter because our devices will contain that virus. It's not going to be able to access the network.
Good.
Okay, so which is a great feature, provided the machine has the latest firmware. You know, new viruses are appearing all the time. So we have to make sure we're maintaining security certificates. That's where secure device management now comes into play. So this is a service that Mode would provide to their customers where you are proactively monitoring the latest security levels to make sure it's got all the latest firmware on there. Or maybe as part of a policy, we might say, well, to limit the risk of infection through a USB, turn it off. Or we're locking down what ports are open, so only secure ports to access Google Drive are opened in the first place. So we can actually control the settings of the device, even through, if we take that a step further, and now we include the Xerox print management software, we can even lock down what applications you're able to print from. So we might say you can print from Google Chrome, which is a trusted browser, but you can't print from Mozilla Firefox, which in many cases is not as trusted.
Yeah.
Or even with print management, we now look at user tracking and user security. So it might provide confidential printing that we're not sending print jobs and then having to run to the device to go and collect it because there's sensitive data. It's only produced when you're at the machine. And in addition to the secure printing, we've also got a complete audit trail. So we can check on who printed what, where, when and how. But in most cases, that would, look, we're talking about Xerox technology, that would only be in the office on a Xerox MFD. With our software, we can actually track the user whether you're in the office or whether you're at home on a Xerox device, or even if you've gone and bought a HP all-in-one from Tesco's, we can still track what the user is printing on those devices, even down to the content and having a trigger word. So if we take the word confidentiality, confidential, anytime there's a document and the user tries to print, it's got the word confidential, you can be notified, the customer can be notified, so we know exactly what's happening. And if that document is that secure, we can even give you document management software that puts it into a repository that only permitted users can access the document in the first place.
So we have secure devices.
Yes.
We have the ability to track activity.
Yes.
And we also have the ability to keep data and content secure as well.
Absolutely. All of that wrapped up as a proactive service where Mode as the supplier are responsible, so the customer doesn't need to worry about it. You're delivering all of that as part of your proactive services for your end users.
So to summarise what we've discussed here today, we talked about efficiency within the workplace. We've also talked about how users have the ability to be more flexible. We talked about productivity and how staff are able to perform their tasks, any duties they have from anywhere. And finally, we also discussed utilising tech and services Mode can offer a protective security service for devices, users, documents and content from anywhere, any location. I'd like to thank Rob for his time here today. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you do have any questions, please do comment below. And if you'd like to contact us, please do so through modesolutions.com.